Okay. So there we go. Now we won't forget. Share. So Celeste will be talking about managing the management, lessons in driving cultural and process change. And Celeste Ayers is a CPIM F. Top level. She's top level CPIM and top level CSCP, also an MBA operations learning and development at EJ Gallo Winery. No samples tonight, free from Gallo, but that's okay. Celeste, on to you, my friend.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me all right? Just to make sure everything's good.
Yes.
All right, no buzzing weird sounds like we worked through. That's great. I am honored to be here today, and I'm using the headset just so I'm at work and people will walk in. So this way they know I am on call and they will leave me alone. I am honored to be here from the West Coast. It is mid-afternoon and slightly windy here in California. I am going to be presenting, yes, PowerPoint. It will not be death by PowerPoint, but just a bit about me. I am also an ASEM person. I happen to be the chapter president of the ASEM Sierra Pacific chapter, which supports Northern California and Nevada. So also a master instructor for CPIM and CSCP, hence the fellowship F at the end of those titles. And this is an absolute fun story to tell you today. What we are experiencing here in the wild world of wine. Now, this is a adaptation of a presentation I did at the Training Within Industry Conference or Summit back in March. And I've added a little bit for you guys to give you some background. But first, what does it mean to be a senior manager of operations learning development? I jumped the ship from being a planning, buying, scheduling, managing practitioner of supply chain of parts and things into the planning, scheduling of people. I'm in the people operations side of the business, but also focused on individuals' learning paths. So I have a fun story to tell you. And I would love to have a conversation with you after we're done here. And if there's one of those things that you're burning question in your mind, go ahead and throw it in the chat. We will address it towards the end. But this is our journey and our story here. And let me introduce E&J Gallo Winery. You may or may not have heard of us. We are the largest winery in the world. Founded here in Modesto, California, where I am born and raised. And then back in 1933, two brothers, Ernest and Julio Gallo, got together and right after Prohibition and said, hey, let's make some money. We've been growing grapes. Let's make some wine. No, they did not know how to make wine. They did not study enology. They did not have any formal training in that. And what they were doing is walking down to the library, like any young person would do. They went down into the basement, found a pamphlet on how to make wine. And here we are, almost 100 years later. And we do employ about 8,000 people worldwide with our latest addition to our production facilities in South Carolina. And that is in Fort Lawn, South Carolina, where our new production facility is at. We have 20 plus wineries around the world, and we are vertically integrated, meaning we own the vineyards, we own the crush facilities, as well as the main bottling room. So here I sit in Modesto. Here, we're the largest industrial manufacturer in the county that we reside in. And we make glass bottles. So we have Gallo glass. We make the glass wine bottles that are used in our facilities. We have a bottling plant that handles wine, somewhere to the tune, and this is going to blow your mind, possibly blew mine. We fill about 3.6 million bottles of wine a day, every day, 7 days a week. So thank you. Thank you for drinking. And we also have a spirits plant down the street, not far from us. So our main products that you may, if you're of drinking age, you may be aware of, we make New Amsterdam vodka. So if you're a hockey fan, we're a supporter of the NHL. If you are a football fan, our latest contract with the NFL was for our number one selling wine, the largest selling wine brand in the world, which is Barefoot. We also make a bunch of other stuff, so much stuff that you would think I'm a wine connoisseur and I know everything. No, there are so many brands that we make, I have to look it up. But we also ventured into the seltzer market. So that's why we have the facility in South Carolina. They are primarily making a product called High Noon. So thank you in advance for buying those things from us. So funny little thing about our world. I came from automotive, and automotive was rough. You know, year over year, cost down, cost down, cost down, and the OEMs unrelenting, right? Well, in the wine world, I found out something weird. People drink when they're happy, and people drink when they're sad. It's just their price points change, right? And this winery makes it all. So, as I said, millions of bottles of wine, cans, boxes, all come out this back door every day. So it's a large operation that requires a lot of coordination and making sure that we have the right skill set of individuals to do the job. And that's why I'm here. Now, this is where our journey starts. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm going to give you a little bit of background. In 2020, things happened. And wine sales went up in double-digit percentages overnight as people were sent to work from home and live and just be sequestered and quarantined, right? Well, we're an essential business. We are keeping America happy or sad, one of the two. And we needed to hire people. In May, June timeframe, our spirits plant went 24/7. It was previously a 5/8 operation, meaning Monday through Friday, it was 24/7, but it would shut down over the weekend. Well, that little product called Pink Whitney that is sponsored by Barstool Sports and NHL went wild. It crazy. So we went 24/7 and moving that overnight. At the same time, wine sales are going through the roof. And the shift from on-premise wine sales in a restaurant to more of your Costco style. We make the Kirkland brand, by the way. So that kind of stuff was being purchased in bulk. We needed to shift our labor. In addition to having double-digit, unprecedented absenteeism. So the ask was from the family, they said, go hire like 100 people, just 100. Just go find some 100 people that want to come and make wine. Don't want to go put some wine in the bottle. I said, great. So as a training organization, I got the knock on the door and they said, hey, we need you to not only get in the mix of hiring 100 plus operators. We're also going to launch 2 new product lines and from scratch, new production lines. And I want you to train faster. And I want you to train better and bigger volume. So I'm new on the job. Now, in my career trajectory here, I've been with the company less than a year. I'm new to this role and the operations training space. And you can imagine that, fill in the blank moment where I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? How are we going to do this? A little bit of research. I turned to my team and said, how do you think we can go tackle this problem? And the one thing that they universally said is, hey, I need you to go look at this thing and go look at this organization. We're going to be training operators. These are people that are going to be working on pieces of equipment and mechanics, repetitive skill. How do we go about training them? And they introduced me to the training within industry. So TWI, that is the acronym for training within industry. Specifically, the job instruction method. So from an operational standpoint, what I'm talking about is how we train, the operations of training. So I'm going to give a brief overview of this and kind of like a little bit of our journey out of 2020 to where we are today. And then I'm going to go into the lessons I've learned in managing the management through this process, because it really, sometimes the management is the hardest part. And those are the lessons I'm going to cover. And then I will be happy to entertain questions related to this content and some of the lessons learned. So I'm going to assume you are not familiar 100% with TWI or training within industry. So I'm going to start there. This is going to be a small blip. TWI has been around, or the concepts have been around since World War II. So you see little Rosie the Riveter there. And the call to action to mass produce. And in fact, we had a workforce that was not skilled in manufacturing. Sounds a lot like what I was dealing with in 2020. Now it's a different kind of war, but same kind of concept. This helps complement our lean manufacturing processes. In fact, it's the foundation in which a lot of lean practices were built. And so, okay, now we're speaking the right language. Now I don't want to do anything that is going to add complication to our operations and training. These are the guys that understand it. So TWI as a foundation has 3 major, what they call J series programs. What I focused on was the middle one here, which is job instruction. So they have job relations, and that teaches people how to interact. And I've actually become job relations certified over a period of time because I realized there's a standard process in which this should be handled. And that's really what TWI is teaching. There's standard processes for handling life situations. Job methods, arguably, is a foundation to Kaizen and improvement methods that Toyota built upon. Now, the job instruction method is where I stopped. And I said, this is what I need to do. And this process trains people how to train. So it's not my team walking out on the floor and training an operator to do the job. It's we empower operators to learn how to train because they know the job best. And using a standardized method, be able to deliver training in a way that is repeatable and effective. So that better, faster, bigger. All of these lead to a foundation of continuous improvement and, most importantly, from a learning development perspective, job enrichment. You got to move from skill into career. And that's what this helps us do as well. So looking at this as just a tool, I was looking at, this is how I spoke to management. I said, I need to do this. I need to fundamentally change how we train, because previous to this call to action, what we would do, a new operator comes in the door, they need to learn a skill. We would partner you with someone that's been here, probably born here. They've been here forever. And you partner and we just pray and hope for the best that everything they know gets transferred into your head. We have an acronym for that now. Of course we do, right? It's called Making Stuff Up, MSU. Go to School of MSU. We're going to go make it up. Now, if you're a Michigan fan, I'm really, really sorry. But it's the School of MSU. Making it stuff up. We're going to put you there. It didn't work. And it took too long. But if we went and we planned, go figure, we planned, we coordinated our information, we delivered it in a uniform, standard way every single time, no matter if you've been here a day or you've been here 5 days. We can increase the effectiveness of our training and the efficiency of our operations. We can improve the quality, and we'll decrease that cycle time to train. Oh, you bet I was tracking that. Managers love metrics. Oh, yes, they do. So do I. It's an ops person, right? And we're able to move people through different skills more effectively. So that time, again, is really a time-bound thing. So achieving those objectives faster, better, and at the volume bigger. It ticked all the boxes. So we stopped and we go, how are we going to do this? So it's July of 2020. We call up TWI Institute. Said, guys, help us out. What do we do? I'm not certified. I'm certifiable at this point because I'm losing my mind because there's so much going on. And remember that 100 operators? Oh, no. We have hired over 400 people in the past 2.5 years. It escalated quickly. As I said, it escalated quickly. So we had to be ready for that. We had to get our tools aligned. So they trained us how to write job instruction breakdowns. These are the lesson plans for the trainers. We taught people how to train, meaning operators are writing lesson plans based off their standard work, based off their experience, their best practices. Hopefully their standard work. Let's just say that, okay? Because that's what they should be doing. You trained that standard in a uniform way. This is an example of a job breakdown of work instruction. Gives you step by step what needs to be done, key points, why are you doing that? And we have a little blue card. This is the back side of the blue card that trainers use every single time. They must carry this with them and the job instruction breakdown to be able to train you. They follow every single step and they go through a process of learning that and practicing that. So every single time that job instruction is broken down and given, it's given the same way, regardless of what shift you're on, what point the sun is in the sky, whether you're having a good day or a bad day. This is how we train. Now we've standardized our process. We can now continually improve it. So we trained our training organization first. So I have a champion who works for me, and he was over our bottling room and our cellar. And he became certified to train this and train our operators on how to perform this method, write their breakdowns. And this is kind of our story. So in July, we started talking to TWI. In August, very, very early August, we started practicing it. And we wrote breakdowns on how to do every single quality check in our bottling room. That's the one thing you want to make sure you get right? Is make sure that you are not shipping poor quality product. So if we can get people to do those quality checks first day on the job, we're going to be winning right out the gate, a focus on quality. So the first batch of new hires showed up on August 10th. We trained them in that way. Then we did a pilot project, and that's what we call line 17. It happens to be the line of one of the line numbers. We have a packer that is very complicated. We call it Megatron. It's very insane. And we found out the biggest piece of downtime on that production line, which was a high volume, it was making the Kirkland style Cabernet, giant bottles. It kept shutting down because it wasn't being cleaned. So we looked at the biggest point of downtime, speaking the management language, what is causing us the most pain? Let's go tackle that. And with that, we were able to standardize the cleaning process because there's a lot of fiber that comes out of the cardboard, clean it out, and we improved downtime within one shift of training. Got everyone on that line trained. We improved it by 30% overnight. Now management's going, okay, what's going on here? And they're starting to give us a little bit more traction. So we were able to get some more trainers in place. And then this little product called High Noon showed up. And in order for us to make that product, we needed to have a pasteurizer put in the building. We already had a can line because, people like to drink wine out of cans now. Okay. So we do that. But the call to action was there's so much demand for this product, this High Noon product. The cans are already sold before they hit the end of the line. We can't make enough. So get this thing going as soon as possible. It goes into construction in October. The plan was to vertically start that up, and that's a new term. Using this method, standardizing our training, using job instruction, we were able to train people in bypass mode on that line. So when that pasteurizer came in line the first week of January of 2021, we were able to train all 47 individuals within the first 3 days to a level of standard that we blew through the production schedule for the entire month in 1 week. The line went on, people are working. Fundamentally changed ramp-up plans for this organization. From here on out, we don't do anything but vertical startup. We started practicing with this with our maintenance groups. World-class maintenance is WCM. There are a lot of acronyms. Vertically started up another bag and box line a few months later. As we move into January, as years to come in 2022, now we're redesigning our current plans for training and converting the whole bottling room, all 18 production lines over to this method. It's a culture change. This is a process that has absolutely shifted our culture to the point where people say to us now, our operators say to us, oh, I'm willing to do anything you need me to do as long as you jib me. It's a verb. It's not a tool. It's a verb. I want to get jibbed on that. Now, sounds very strange if you're not used to hearing that, but what it means is I know that you're taking the time to train me properly. I'm going to be successful. And we've had so many successful stories in this process as we're adding new trainers and we're embedding them into production lines where they operate 99.9% of the time. And as we need a trainer, we pull them and they train and then go back to their day job. We keep on going. And what is interesting about this is that my job has changed to the point where I am now managing up and become the quasi-evangelist of sorts of this methodology as we're seeing the results from an operational efficiency perspective. So that leads us to today. One of the things I get asked a lot by people within the TWI community, they're like, how do you manage this? What happens if your management doesn't agree with you? Oh, by the way, they won't agree with you. No, if you're doing it right, even you could show the numbers all day, every day, there's still that tug of, but this is the way we've always done it. So I've summarized my experience into four big lessons. And hopefully this inspires you a bit, whether you are looking at JI as a method for you and improving your organization's capabilities, or if you're looking at your own process change, think of it from a different perspective, maybe a little bit of hope. Now, the big lesson. You're going to get some of my humor here on this screen, so you're going to enjoy this, maybe. I did. I enjoyed putting it together. So lesson number one, and I hear this a lot from other leaders outside of my organizations, like, well, how did you make this happen? You know, we've tried this, it didn't work. Why does it make it? Because I owned it. Every single one of my team members, including myself, I looked my TWI initial trainer in the eyeballs and I said, Sean, this better work because my career is riding on it. No, he's like, this is terrifying. And yes, I'm aware I'm intense. I'm aware of that. I'm self-aware, right? But it was true. And I had to own it. My team owned it. It was not, oh, well, you know, we'll get there when we get there, you know, and oh, this is hard. We had so many obstacles. It was ridiculous. But we had a mission. And our mission was to train faster, train better, and increase volume, be bigger. As a result of that, we sized up the scenarios around us. We looked at different stakeholders internally. That was my senior director of bottling, senior director over the seller. As I'm providing a service to their area, telling them, hey, that's great. I know you have double-digit absenteeism, but I'm stealing these 5 operators and we're going to go teach them how to train. I'm not asking permission, I'm doing, and this is how I'm going to help you. So my role became managing the management up so my team could go do the actual work. Communicating successes, expecting that resistance and being ready to communicate, this is why we're doing it 100,000 times. Also, in order to have that internal drive of extreme ownership and really own this process to completion, I needed support. And this is a big life lesson for me as a leader. I needed multiple layers of support. That was leaning on the TWI Institute a little bit, saying, hey, am I on the right path? Having those thought partners to walk through the strategy pieces, because we had a great plan on how we were going to do this. And within 10 minutes, that thing was already obsolete. So we had to pivot. Also building, I have 5 supply lines of support. The one person that will just tell me, you got this, you're doing great, then encouraging the heart person. And the individual I call the 2x4 that will call me on my crap and tell me that I have no idea what I'm doing and you need to knock it off. I'm having the day. Have those that will be just a friend. Have those that are in the trenches with you, and so on. So I know I listed 4, but there's 5. And here I have this graphic, okay? This graphic is a honey badger. In case you didn't know, that's a honey badger. It's not the prettiest of animals, but that's my nickname. And that's the nickname given to me by my team. And you see it's carrying a snake in its mouth. And you can go research honey badgers. And I know they say they don't care. Honey badgers really do care. So much so that they own the situation until it is taken care of. So lesson 1, Do you want this to succeed? Process change, cultural change, it rides on you. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. It's you. And there is a book by this same title that has inspired me to have this message. And I didn't read it until much later. It's written by 2 Navy SEALs, and I highly, highly recommend it. It's called Extreme Ownership, and that's how the Navy SEALs win. So I highly recommend it as a cultural piece. That is what I have my team as part of their leadership development read as well. Lesson 1. Lesson 2, if I can find the mouse, there you are, friend, is yes, let's not forget our good friend, change management. And I don't know about your company, but my company doesn't do this well. We say we do. We do pockets of greatness, okay? And when we talk about change management in the context that I'm talking about here, not only are changing the process, but there's a whole human level that I wish I could ignore sometimes, but I can't, about handling that change. So once I acknowledged, this isn't just changing how we train. This is changing how our organization does this. We went through this process of acknowledging the beast in the room and acknowledging that culture is harder to shift than process, and went for it and just started addressing it, called it out. And I have this little saying, and I'm not going to rattle them all off. I will do it at some other time if you want, but I call it the 6 Ds. The 6 Ds are what happens when you're trying to go through change and you're deflected, you're derailed. I'd go into meetings and try and talk about TWI and say, this is what we're doing. And it'd be like, but this one time you did this. That's a derailment. Disremembering is our favorite D. We don't remember. We have amnesia. Like, what's going on here? So defend, deflect, disremember, derail. Oh gosh, I'm even forgetting them now. The amnesia is strong today. But there's 6 of them that I would walk through and go, okay, I'm denying. Oh, that's another fun one. Going through and saying, this is what I'm hearing from you as a leader. How can I help us get past this? One of addressing those Ds. And then I used the word, and the only way you can get through this is recognizing change is hard. Whether it should be or not, it's a judgment call, but it is. And every time I had the opportunity, I talked about it. I evangelized what we were doing to the point where leaders were going like, oh, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say TWI is going to solve this problem. I said, no, but let me tell you how it can. And not being afraid to engage in an uncomfortable conversation. Case in point, as we're going through this process, implementing this change, we have a little bit of a little weak spot in our armor, a little hole. It's called our operations leadership don't always agree that they need to document their processes. So the standard work conversation comes up. But they want us to train to the standard. We don't have a standard to train to. And what was happening as we were continuing to move along and standardizing our processes and engaging with the operators, and the operators were enjoying what we were doing and they're seeing the improvements, sometimes our ops managers got a little upset. He said, you're making us look bad. I'm making you look good. We're on the same team. And so we had to actually have a really hard conversation, not once, not twice. It kind of came in cycles. It happens. And be able to have that managerial courage at all levels of my team to go ahead and engage in that difficult conversation, work through the change, acknowledge the cultural presence. That leads to success. And this is what keeps me up at night. This is the 2 a.m. wake up call. I go, oh my gosh, did I talk to so-and-so? Or I remember them saying this phrase. How do I handle the outright denial that this is working? Data. Yes, okay, what data can I go pull? So change management is worth its weight in gold. Now, third lesson. This is a standardized method. I'm not changing it. And I don't have many conversations. How many conversations I've had with people within the community of operations training using job instruction. Sometimes they are continuous improvement professionals. Sometimes they're training professionals like myself. Sometimes they're managers just trying to figure things out. And they want to tell me, well, you know, it's a 4 steps, but I can do it in 3. No. We have a rule. We will preserve and protect the process. It's 4 steps. And yes, we do repeat them. And everyone on the team has a role in doing that. My role is preserve and protect this process, this cultural transformation from my level up. My champion that works with me is his level plant down. His training his program coordinator from that level to the trainer side down to the floor. Everyone knows their role. Everyone on the team preserves the method. When I say preserve the team, what I mean is protect them. We have many, many times when operators getting pulled from training because they think something else needs to get done. Operations, I understand, we got to make some stuff. I get it. But if you're in training, you're dedicated to training. This meant something so super simple, which caused a lot of hubbub. We did not allow our trainers to wear their radios anymore. So they couldn't be interrupted. We had to preserve the process and the team member to allow them to do their job. We protect the method. We don't change it. We follow the method. We have open conversation when there's challenge to the method. And what we found in that, by having a standard cadence in how we do things, it didn't provide rigidity to the point where we weren't creative. It actually allowed us to have freedom to focus on the things that really mattered so we could positively impact the organization. So we focus on the core things. We don't change the method. We protect the team. And that may even be, and this has happened multiple times, we're training in a specific area. We have people actively surveying the training to keep people away. Protect the method to get it done. As silly as that sounds, sometimes it has to happen. And my job is to keep management off the floor long enough so we can get the job done. So that's knowing my role. The fourth lesson, equally important, is sometimes you got to know when to retreat. Now, with us, we started in our bottling room. We didn't start in spirits. We weren't ready for that. But we did venture into the spirits world, into their production when they redid their production line that makes a little tiny 50 mil PETs that you see like on airplanes or in gas stations or whatever. And we launched there. We started the process of rolling out the job instruction method there. And what we found was that A, we didn't have the resources immediately, and we didn't have the pull from the business to really justify continuing. So we actually stopped progressing in that space, and we'll come back to it in 2024. I call it losing the battle to win that war, and that's the cultural war. I'm not going to implement something that's going to fail and it becomes flavor of the month, because we've already done that before. It happens all the time. So one of the lessons I had to learn personally, because stubbornness is my strong suit, is that sometimes you got to stop and recalibrate and really look at what your mission is again, and then redirect. So we iterated our approach to the rollout based on our experience in spirit. We didn't change the method. That's not changing. Our strategy and how we deploy is changing and changed. And the last lesson in this, and this is one thing I am so thankful about in this culture, in this organization, we like to celebrate. Maybe a little too much sometimes, not in the sense of partying, but we really congratulate people for what seems to be like their job or something. But we find that having these moments of celebrating progress, one, builds better team morale, and two, helps evangelize the message. So every time we have a celebration, we have a successful point, we celebrate it. And it's nothing big. We're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars here. We're talking about an acknowledgement of progress. For example, when we trained a new team member, been on the job a whole 3 days, we trained him on a quality check that is absolutely essential. And this quality check is to make sure that the right glass bottle is put on the right production line. And he checks the lot codes and checks the work order and checks the label. There's a process, right? Trained him 3 days on the job. He found that the wrong glass was picked and put on the line, and he was able to identify it, stop the line, and prevent over $250,000 in holds. 3 days on the job. We celebrate the heck out of that. And he was given acknowledgement for that. What that did is it brought him the joy of realizing that he is valued, and brought us the joy that knows that the process is working. So we celebrate it. Equal parts of humility and celebration. Those are my 4 big lessons. As the culture continues to grow and adapt to this, and sometimes I feel like we're 4 steps forward, 3 steps back kind of situation, that kind of scenario. Overall, we are better today because of this. And it's taken every ounce of my being as a leader, being challenged personally, professionally, my team, we really put in a space where we had to put our money where our mouth was. And we had to work harder to make sure that we can drive this change. We're hoping this organization continues to grow and develop and be better for it. So we're not done. No way are we done. And so right now, what we're doing is we're spending more time not only doing the job instruction with it, but now I'm taking the same concept and moving upwards with our leaders. And I'm talking about these lessons. And I'm driving cultural change because they're doing the same thing, just different process that impacts our culture. And we need each other. And we're trying to look at what habits we can help build at all levels of skill to help build resilience. The number one thing I hear from leaders is that the rate of change, the pace of change isn't stopping. It's actually increasing. So using these lessons to focus on how we develop our leaders and how do we build those cultural enablers of resilience. That's what we've been doing. So I hope that inspired you a little bit, and I'm sure you have questions. If you do, and I will also put in the chat my LinkedIn direct link. And we can talk for days on this, but I'm also available via phone, via email, if you'd like to reach out. If you've got something you want to talk about related to job instruction, I can point you in the right place. If you want to talk about wine, I can find someone that can talk to you about that. I just like what I like. That's all I know. That's what I have for you today. And I thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Celeste.
Open to questions now. It's your turn.
Yeah, people, let's get some questions. Ask about the presentation, ask about Gallo wines. What is the best ones to get from there? I don't know.
I know the ones I like the ones I like. I can't help you past that.
I will say, by the way, I did put in the link for the survey and for the certificate. So I'm going to hit enter. So that is in the links in the chat window for you folks. And now let's hear.
I just got a question, Larry Spittle. In tracking your progress, you obviously had to use some good tools in the record recording activity, obviously to know the continuous amount of product moving along the assembly line and process line. Did you see dips in of the 24, something like your 24 hours at a moment? You should be able to collect a lot of data where times where things were going well and things were going not so well. And I assume you were zeroing in on the areas where we're having problems. So what kind of tools did you kind of use to evaluate all that, get that data in play? Just trying to see how that fast movement of stuff, I like how you do that.
So we have a manufacturing execution system. We call it the MES, go figure. But it's capturing in real time line speed as well as fill rates, throughput rates, downtime rates, things like that. And when we track our performance in our training efforts, we target a specific area, like that line 17 packer, right? We knew that had, that was the number of mispicks. That's automatically calculated data from the line. And we use that as our benchmark data. We didn't have to go and reinvent the wheel. We want to speak the language of operations.
But I also think there's a lot of times businesses that I mean, right now I'm working.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name the name of the plant, but it's a big plant in Connecticut, and all the data is collected. It seemingly over time must pass. I think the best they've been able to do is within 1 or 2 weeks, we're able to collect data and assess it and analyze it and put it forward. But it seems like you guys do it nonstop, which is something interesting. How to get that data to work for you. So that's to me is something that you should hang your hat on. That one's pretty good.
So supply chain 101, right? Tell you if you increase visibility and decrease variability, you can increase volume. The 3 V's, right? So for me, if I can increase visibility to what's going on and I can use automatic systems, the better. Thankfully, we have some of those in place. There are some areas where it's not in place and it's painful. But in those cases, we wanted to speak the language the operations managers speak. What means most to them? What means downtime reduction, uptime increases, things like that. That's what mattered to us in our measurements. We didn't want to reinvent it and go, well, here's a training metric that will show you that how you're helping. You're like, I don't feel there's a connection. So that was helpful. Arthur had a question related to retention. I want to address that. Has this helped with retention? Yes. Now, what we're having a hard talking about data, when we look at exit data, because we have normal attrition, we've had attrition, and we will ask very pointed questions like, hey, how was your training experience? Because our organization's culture is very much looked after, let me put it that way. And so when someone leaves, we'll say, why are you leaving? And we found that most of the reasons why people were leaving, they were either A, leaving California, which is a theme. Okay, we get that. The other one is they didn't like the manufacturing environment at all. It had nothing to do with the training. Nothing to do with the training. It wasn't, I'm not getting the right training. It had everything to do with other life decisions. Now, there have been individuals that have said, I want to work in this specific area because they train in this way, and that has aided that. So yes, we can attribute it to it. It's more direct.
Celeste, I have a question. I didn't quite hear your definition of MSU.
Making stuff up. Now, you can use a different S in there if you want. And I do sometimes. We've kind of come accustomed to a little more rough around the edges around here, but making stuff up. And that is relying on other people's best guess of what they think they should tell you to be successful in your job.
Sure. And the other part, once somebody agrees to become a trainer, does that help advance their careers too?
It's not a pay to play kind of scenario here. So what we are a union shop, which is a whole nother ball of wacky. And having come from a non-union space to a union space, there's some rules in this place. One thing that we do have an agreement with these roles is that everyone is designated as a trainer if appointed. So they don't get extra money for being a trainer. But what it does help us do from a career development standpoint is if there is an interest in training, there is career development in different types of roles like training leaders, training representatives, specialists, and so on. So it does create a career path. And some people have chosen that. And we picked the best of the best of obviously to come join the team on the salaried side. But it adds to that retention is that career pathing, which is my title. It's called learning development, not training. So I am trying to build that pathway. Yes.
We had a question from Art that says, has this process helped with retention?
Yes, that's what I was addressing. Yes,
Yeah.
and yes, we have been able to attribute to that. The one thing I don't like about it is that I don't have a beautiful chart or graph with the regression analysis that can show the cause and effect link, but from a perspective of the operators and their feedback during exit and also for career advancement, they have addressed the training has improved and they do appreciate that. Yes.
Oh, that's great. That's great. All right. Does anyone else have any questions?
I have one more.
Sure.
What's the best gallon of wine for doing a sales and operations plan?
The strongest.
To drink while doing one. Great question. My personal favorite, and that is not bottled here in Modesto, is from our Napa winery. It's a Louis Martini Cab. I am more of a red drinker than I am a white, and I don't like the sweet stuff. So we make Boone's Farm. If you like that, go for it. But no, thank you.
I think we like that in college. That is awesome. Oh, Celeste, can you email me the PPT so I can get up on
I will.
website?
I am gonna scrub a couple things out, but everything else will be fine. But yes, I will be sending.
So I should have it up. Oh, go ahead, Judy. Jump in.
This is Judy, and I just want to say this was very thought-provoking, and I'm going on vacation for a week, so I think I'm going to make really clear job instructions for my boss. It's kind of interesting. I have a boss that is getting close to retirement, and she is really thinking more like retirement, and she's not in the career mode, and things just get done, and trying to train people, she has admitted is not her strong area. But it's interesting how the employee, myself, I can really help others by learning to address the whys. Like, I've always been a big believer, like you said, communicate the whys. Why are we doing what we're doing? And I think that means a lot, because many times I had been trained by others to say, you just do this, and then you do this, and you do this. And I'd be, why am I doing this? And it seemed like a strange question to them, but it helps you absorb. And it's so true. So I thought your presentation was very interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Judy, for that feedback. And I could think back to my early days as a buyer. I will never forget the day I got my first stack of MRP. And I'm like, okay, great. What do I do? Just follow this line, just do that thing. It was until I got CPIM certified, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's more to this. And I actually need to know how to do this. What are the inputs and the outputs? It's that why. And then I will always answer the why. Unless it's my 7-year-old who just asked me why because he's just being difficult. And that's a whole nother conversation. But in the work world, yes, we need to give people the why. We're adults, right? We're not robots.
A lot of the old school managers don't necessarily like to do that, which is unfortunate. Why? Because I told you so. And nobody learns anything out of that at all. So it's like the people who won't allow any remote work because they have to see the person to supervise. Old school. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Any other questions for us? Well, you have her. It's free question time right now. Get questions for your work to go back to work with new tools in the tool belt.
Double click on Judy's name if something. No.
Ooh, well, we're not going to double click on Judy's name, but we could.
No.
I was going to say one other thing with Judy's question. Think of all those folks that retire and none of their knowledge is captured in your process here. All that knowledge gets shared long before somebody retires.
Right. And actually that's been fun expanding into our maintenance realm. So maintenance are like the ninjas. I don't know if that happens in your operations too. Like you call them in when you need something and they like do bibbity bobbity boop and they run away. In our operations, we have one guy, but we have labelers. They put the front label on the bottle and the back label of the bottle really, really fast. And he knows those labelers inside and out. Well, he's getting ready to retire. So it was, what do we do? I got a method for that. Now we have a way to capture that. Some people call it knowledge transfer. It's just called under documenting a standard and training to the standard. So this emergency, when he gave us a 2-year notice, which was super nice, but he didn't have to. And this emergency caused that functional area, which I've been knocking on their door for a while, going, hey, now let's work together. We know this works. Now, one thing I could go into is we are using other technologies now that are a little weird, but we're using augmented reality, we're using screen capturing, using lenses to be able to capture these standards quicker so we can develop training faster. So now that's where my shift has gone as well, is how do we replicate this more effectively and efficiently? So we know the method works. And you imagine a bunch of mechanics with these little screen capturing lenses on, they don't like me right now. No, they don't like me at all, but it's a necessary process and they see the benefit and we're able to get this stuff moving forward. So yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Any other questions while we still have Celeste? Let's get it done, my friends. Questions. What I will do is I'll stop the recording in case there's anyone that's shy.
Perfect.